Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam Odesser. I'm director of the Dr. Stuart Lesson's Israel Action Center at the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Washington. And I'd like to thank all of you and welcome you to this really timely webinar with retired Colonel Miri Eisen. I'd like to thank all of you really for being here and joining us today. I'd also like to thank Charlotte Barrios, our Israel Action Center associate, for helping to put together this important webinar. It is really been quite a few hours. Things have been happening so fast over the past few hours. Of course, the most recent attack of over 180 ballistic missiles from Iran, a terrorist attack in Tel Aviv as well. That unfortunately reports have said that 8 people were killed in this attack. And also, the beginning of an ongoing ground incursion into Lebanon by IDF forces. And this is without even talking about the war in Gaza, which some may have forgotten about, and having 101 hostages still being held by Hamas there. So there's a lot happening. And before I pass it over to Miri, I just want to introduce her briefly. Retired Colonel Miri Eisen is a fellow at the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism. She served in the Israeli intelligence community, and over her 20-year career in the military, she served as the deputy head of the Combat Intelligence Corps, a personal assistant to the director of military intelligence, and other positions as well. She's also served in the Israeli Prime Minister's office during the Second Lebanon War. So it's really a perfect person to talk about the current situation. So before I pass it over to Miri, just a couple of housekeeping items. Miri will talk for as long as she can. Of course, pending, any developments in Israel, if she will have to leave us at any moment, she will, of course, need to do so, and we will see if will be able to continue the conversation after, or perhaps follow up with the conversation in another time. After she will speak, and hopefully we'll have time for some questions from the Q&A that come in through the Q&A. If you have any question, please put it in through the Q&A feature, and I hope we will have time to answer as many of them as possible. Closed captioning is also available at the bottom of your screen. This call is being recorded as well and will be available later on. So at this moment, I'd pass it over to Miri. Miri, thank you again so much for being here. It really means a lot. I know you're keeping tabs on your phone and everywhere, so
so I'm going
yeah,
to start by saying thanks for inviting me. I mean,
of
I'm going to
course.
take my glasses off, which means that maybe I won't look at my phone all of the time, but I'm still jittery, and I'm sharing that with everybody right now. So I right now am at home and inside my house study. Anybody who's seen me on TV in the last 10 days, and I've been on everything, this is where I sit. And I was scheduled to be doing all sorts of different things. And there was a siren this morning. Hezbollah fired rockets. There was a siren yesterday and the day before. That's the air siren. And then you go down to a safe area. The instructions are that you stay there for 10 minutes. And then after that, you can come out. And today, what happened, I'm home together with one of my other kids. All of the rest of my husband is in reserve duty and has been for 361 days from October 7th. And all 3 of my children are serving now in their compulsory, I call it compulsory, but in their service in the IDF. So I'm home with one of the kids, and both of us get into our phones. That's the way it works here. This is part of the passive defense. That both of us get into our phones, a very drastic noise. It turns it's an app that we have, which is the Homefront app. And it tells us that we immediately need to go to a safe area, wherever you are. And I don't know to tell you the exact hour. I probably can look and find it because it's in my phone. Everything nowadays is, documented. And most likely, if you're in the United States and you were watching TV, it was breaking news there. But what does that do to me? I'm not watching TV. So people who have full safe rooms, which means at the end of the day, it's going to be middle class and affluent people in their safe rooms, if they're not using it, because the safe room has extra thick concrete, special windows that have a closing of iron so that you don't get glass exploding. I live I love my house. It does not have a safe room. So what they tell you is if you don't have a safe room built into your house, then you go to the safest place in your house, which in my case is in a stairwell. And I spent the next God, I don't know how long, Adam, you were writing me as we were going back and forth, but they told us to go down. And only after we were down there and sitting in the stair, they told us to go to the safe room. In the stairwell, did we both get again into our phones the siren? And then you hear the siren everywhere you are. That siren is a very strong sound. And then I live quite near 800 meters from the area that both Iran and Hezbollah keep saying that they're targeting, which is called Glilot. It's the northern end of Tel Aviv. It's where, according to everybody, is the Mossad headquarters and the 8200 headquarters. It's 800 meters behind this wall here. And we're sitting on the stairwell, and my house is totally shaking because you can hear the interceptor, and then you hear boom, and it's here, it's nearby. And a lot of what went on, I know that now the pictures are starting to come out, and I say the boom and what's going on, that's an interceptor. So it is exceedingly scary. There's nothing nice about it. It's slightly easier for people who are in safe rooms because they're in a closed room. They close the heavy door. You all know what happened with that on October 7th, but I'm sharing all of this with you because here I am. I'm a colonel. I have served my entire life, my adult life, as a colonel in the IDF, as a spokesperson. I was the official spokesperson of the government in the Second Lebanon War in 2006. I was up north, and I'm in sirens all the time. What Iran fired at us were intercontinental ballistic missiles that have warheads that can be half a ton to a ton of weaponry, and they're firing it into the greater Tel Aviv area. All of the state of Israel was inside safe rooms, but what was different this time than any other time in all of our history is that we were told to go down, we were told to stay there, and then we were told to stay in. Only at 8:35, we went down, I think it must have been at like 7:20 when we got this alert into our phones. Only at 8:35 did they say, it is now safe for you to go out. I'm still sitting a little jittery. It's not that much now. It's a little after 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. inside Israel. Because again, this morning I was in the house when a siren went off, and it was a missile that Hezbollah, a mid-range missile that Hezbollah had fired from Lebanon towards the central area of Israel. And I give all of that because at the end, we're human beings. I think it's scary in Lebanon right now. I'm very aware of that. My heart goes out to what's happening to the Lebanese people. And Hezbollah have fired 8,000 rockets at Israel before the last 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, that number is edging up towards that Hezbollah has fired into Israel 10,000 projectiles. Hamas fired into Israel from October 7th over 20,000 projectiles. Iran fired at Israel on the night of April 13th and 14th, different platforms. And all of this within that context, Yemen is fired against Yemen. It's not Yemen. It's the Houthi Shiite Iranian proxy that have fired. And I'm going to sit here now and calmly condense myself and say, where are we? What in the world is happening on October 1st? October 7th is the worst day of my life. And I say that on endless levels. It's a colossal failure of the state of Israel towards its citizens. It's a colossal failure of the Israeli Defense Forces on the operational front, that they so were not ready that they also had no response on October 7th. It was a colossal failure of the system that I come from, the intelligence system, that not only did not give early warning, but was in its own way, had the information and yet did not understand it. And on October 7th, that you know. But what most people don't realize is that Hezbollah was planning on October 7th. And I, in the 5 years before 2023, took endless people like yourselves up to the Israeli northern border, just like you would go up to the US-Canada border or the US-Mexico border. You go to the US-Lebanon border on the Israeli side. And from the different communities there, and because of that, I have a lot of friends in all of those communities there, I would stand on our side of the border and I would describe Hezbollah's plan. How did I know Hezbollah's plan? Because they were very overt about it. Hassan Nasrallah, the same Hassan Nasrallah, presented it in one of his weekly sermons. It was called Operation Liberation of the Galilee. It's a detailed operation, very similar to what Hamas enacted on October 7th. So you go, if you knew about that, and you were waiting for that, and you were looking at that, How did you so miss Hamas? Oh my God, as I said, colossal failure. We weren't looking at Hamas. We didn't see them as a threat. Boy, were we wrong. We didn't understand that they were doing the same kind of training and the same kind of actions, and that they enacted that on October 7th. On the night of October 7th, 8th, before everything that we've talked about for the last year, because we're all on the stage of the issue of the amount of civilians that have died, the amount, okay, I'm very aware of the focus of where that war went. Hezbollah joined in on the night of October 7th, 8th. Hezbollah from Lebanon did not do the ground attack that they had been planning to do, that they had trained to do, that they had built special arsenals of weapons all along the border. They have the same kind of pickup trucks and motorcycles, the same kind of paragliders. But everything that Hamas did, Hezbollah does on steroids. It's 10 times as much training, capabilities, weaponry, because at the end, the Gaza Strip was isolated both by Israel. It has the border with Egypt, and that's where the bulk of a lot of the smuggling went in from. And I don't blame Egypt for that. When we were there was smuggling from that side of the border. It's very hard to stop smuggling and that type of thing. But I go back into where we are today, and this is the Israeli perspective, and I'm very aware of that. But essentially, from my point of view, the shock, the chaos, the horrific aspect of the colossal failure of October 7th meant that Israel was focused and the what was 256 hostages, which we didn't know on October 7th. I'll remind you all that even in the last few weeks, we still changed the numbers of hostages because it's not like Hamas, the terror organization, ever told us who they took, ever let anybody see them. At the most, they'll put out psychological warfare tapes showing these people, including the lovely 6 Israelis who were butchered, murdered, executed by those terrorists 3 weeks ago. And that was the worst day since October 7th, that day where they executed them, and we got to them the day after in the Rafah area. And I'm saying things that I'm not sure how much all of you are conversant with, but I come back to where we are because Israel went on the offensive in the week following the assassination, the really, as I said, just the execution of those 6 hostages down south. Meaning at that stage, Hezbollah, not Hamas, had already attacked Israel every single day with rockets, with anti-tank guided missiles, with suicide drones, with UAVs, every different type. They did it, Hezbollah, with their forces, run by Hassan Nasrallah, did it in what they called a limited area. But that limited area is inside Israel. 70,000 people were evacuated on October 8th because Miri, along with all of the other IDF, I mean, in that sense, I wasn't doing it. We knew of the Hezbollah plan to do the same thing. Would you leave your citizens in their homes next to the border when they have the capacity to do so? And so they were evacuated then because of that threat. For pretty much, I would say, 10 months, Israel responded every time to the Hezbollah attacks, specifically on the dot to where they were. And I would say, from my point of view, this started with the open assassination that Israel did of Fuad Shukul, who was he was the equivalent of the chief of staff of Hezbollah, and this was on July 31st. And that in the aftermath of that, the day after that, no, that wasn't July 1st. Sorry, I'm totally off of my times. It was in September. 3 weeks ago, I'm not going to say dates now. Okay, that's me a little frazzled right now. The end of July is the the killing of Ismail Haniyeh. God, I'm totally off my block right now. But Israel went on the initiative by taking out, it was, Fuad Shukul was, sorry, at the end of July. And then in the aftermath of that also, Iran claimed that it was Israel that killed Ismail Haniyeh. We never claimed it for ourselves. I'm not being cute about it. I'm just being, semi-official about that. We never said we did it. And then in the following weeks, in August, and then from September, Israel started to go on the offensive against Hezbollah. All that means is that Hezbollah has been firing into Israel every single day, and we would respond. And from the end of July, during August, in a series of what we call targeted attacks. And I know targeted attacks kill other people too. Targeted attacks are, in that sense, one of the challenges that every military has when it comes to what do you do with a terror operative? It's a designated terror organization by the US, by the UK, by Canada, by the EU, certainly by Israel, but it's not one that we just define that way. And they hide behind civilians. And in those civilian arenas, they not only build their headquarters, they build their arsenals of weapons. They build production facilities. They put missiles, that just the idea that you have cruise missiles in the living room inside your house and hidden in such a way. And over the last 3 weeks, I think that part of the campaign that Israel has been doing of going on the offensive has been that Israel has shared, in a way that we did not in the past, pictures, photographs, clips. And today, before the Iranian attack, which has thrown me off a little bit, today the IDF spokesperson put out what was, for me, the most important part of this war that's going on against Hezbollah, which is not just about attacking and destroying these military terror capabilities. What they put out today are clips and videos of IDF soldiers who in the last 200 days, okay, we were not attacking, Hezbollah openly, but we were going into this system that I described in Lebanon, into that whole tunneling system. And the IDF spokesperson released today 20 different videos of 20 different sites that are right next to the Israeli border on the Lebanese side of attack tunnels. You need to see it to believe it. And all of this is taking place today. And there's a siren from Hezbollah. And we had the decision to take out Hassan Nasrallah means that what Israel is saying is, okay, we believe in diplomacy. I want to say that clearly. We gave 11 months of diplomacy where we only responded to Hezbollah attacks. We did not initiate almost any attacks until the summer. That was months upon months of incoming rockets. It's Amos Hochstein, it's Biden, it's the French, everybody's saying, okay, and we're saying, okay, how do you get the terror forces that are on the Lebanese side of the border? They are Lebanese. They have been preparing it. We've shown it for so many years. How do you tell us that they're not there? And it's not about me, Miri. It is about my friends in Shtula, in Manara, in Matat, and in Malkia. I'm giving you names of Israeli communities. They are communities, they are towns, they are villages. The city of Kiryat Shmona of 24,000 people, the city of Shlomi. How do you tell these people, my friends, all of these different people, 70,000 Israelis, that they can go home when that kind of threat, immediate threat, exists? And from my point of view, and I don't like it, it doesn't make me happy at all. But until I, Israel, believe that they don't have the capability to come across the border, because everybody's like right now, they're deterred. It was enough the aerial campaign. No, they are terrorists. They're a terror army. They're not a regular army. And the aerial campaign that targeted them hit communications, commanders, control, computers. Okay, those are all the 4 C's as they're known. And we did absolutely create a certain level of chaos. Hezbollah has been defending itself and building itself for many, many years. So we absolutely created havoc and chaos. They have tens of thousands of operatives that have been trained and fought in the war in Syria on Bashar al-Assad's side. Hezbollah was the main force that came to fight with Bashar al-Assad, the butcher, inside that war in Syria. I don't call it a civil war because Hezbollah is not Syrian, and they were one of the main forces that fought with Bashar al-Assad against whatever. The rebels are not exactly good, but it's hard to discuss that one. But if I come back to the point that for Israel, I am more than happy for the international community to supervise. If the international community would tell me, UNIFIL is physically there, the Lebanese army is physically there, if they could tell me how it got there in the first place, how they're going to go and stand up to Hezbollah and make sure that Hezbollah does not do that attack that they were planning for years, I'm willing to accept it. A month, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Hezbollah is firing at Israel. And so the initiative now and the ground incursion right now are specifically to address that issue. Israel has been very clear about it. This is about going in to take care of the additional sites that are mainly inside towns and villages on the Lebanese side of the border. And I think that in that sense, I've given here just that idea of where that all comes from. And all of this, as soon as Israel upped its game, both against the Hezbollah targets, when I say targets, it is the arsenals of weapons, it's the launchers themselves. It is the commanders, the controllers, and the command and control system. You want to knock that out. That's the beeper pagers, assuming that Israel did that. You want to try and target them. And I really do think in that sense that it should not be that the terror organization is the one defining the agenda. For the first time since October 7th, in the last 2 weeks, even within this last hour and a half with this crazy Iranian attack, I feel that Israel is the one defining the rules, even though I know that contrary to everything that I just said right now, everybody thinks that Israel is the aggressor. And I'm like, I actually don't think so. I think that we are strong. I worry about the way we use our strength, just like you do. I do know that all of the people who do targeting against terrorists wake up every morning and they are human beings and they have to continue to be human beings and look at themselves in the mirror. They never target civilians. And when they do so, you go and check how that happened, because you never do that on purpose. And that's true both against the Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And look at those numbers. That doesn't make it any better for the tens of thousands of people who have been killed and are suffering in the Gaza Strip. It doesn't help Lebanon right now. And I say, okay, so tell me what you do so that the civilians don't become, because that's what happened both in the Gaza Strip and in Lebanon, that they don't become the blueprint safe haven for the terrorist entities. And I don't have a good answer for that one, except for what Israel is doing now feels very strongly to me as something where we are defending ourselves against those two entities specifically call for our annihilation. And there's only one thing that I will say in the 32 years of Hassan Nasrallah, he was most definitely a very gifted orator, but I am annoyed, and I'm being nice right now because I'm really peeved at this, and I would be very rude Israeli usually in the way that I would address it. But to read the obituaries in United States-based media outlets presenting him as a political orator, charismatic, who is like somebody that I'm like, he was a very charismatic terrorist leader. He called for the use of violence against Israelis because he views us between pigs to cockroaches, which means that we're not human. And I say that because I'm very worried about the way that he's been presented in aftermath as a political leader. For 32 years, he was the leader of Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a designated terror organization, not because Israel wants, because all of his actions are completely and absolutely within that realm. And I talk too much in that sense. Wow, I talked way more than I expected. Putting on my glasses. Happy to address any questions whatsoever. Adam, how do you want me to do this?
Yeah, and questions are coming in. I'll ask a few questions as well.
Okay.
I just want to kind of,
I'm going to sip my tea. Okay.
yep, that's perfect. So I want to take kind of a 40,000 feet view here on the whole situation. And, maybe you can share with us a little bit, what, made Iran attack Israel now? What brought this on? Is it, the intensifying, attack on Hezbollah now that Hassan Nasrallah was and the entire leadership basically of Hezbollah was killed. What has they attacked back in April, and that was in response to the killing of one Iranian official in Damascus, if I'm not mistaken.
Iranian Revolutionary Guard. I don't call him an official, but
Sorry,
okay.
correct. Correct. So what made them attack now?
Okay.
And also, and of course, what do we expect a response would look like by Israel, would the US even consider joining Israel in an offensive attack? And I've actually heard reports just in the past hour saying that there was an American base that was also attacked during this Iranian attack. I think it was like in Al Assad, I think it might have been in Iraq. So we're just wondering if you have any sense, perhaps, we all
I'm
know
going to
there's an
try. I'm going
election.
to do what you said.
Yeah,
I'll go
there's an
up
election coming up.
40,000
We know
feet.
that, and so yeah. So,
Okay.
what is your take on that?
Okay. So after I described what I just described about Hezbollah, I need to go up 40,000 feet and say, so why did Iran, the Islamic regime of Iran, turn Hezbollah? Because it was called the pupil wanted to get what the teacher was giving. And why did they turn Hezbollah into this immensely strong non-state actor that literally has the 10th largest arsenal of missiles in the world? That's Hezbollah. I'm not talking about Iran right now. And Iran did so that nobody would attack Iran. Iran works through proxies. Iran aspires to be a regional power, that is clear, but Iran wants to export its version of the revolution, not just to other Shiite countries. It wants to, because it's not the Shiite revolution, it's the Islamic revolution. And I'm just saying, for those who are less conversant, perhaps, I don't know who our audience is, and I may have Muslims also within the audience itself, but essentially in the world, if there are around 2 billion Muslims, around 90% are Sunni, around 10% are Shiite, and Iran is a Shiite majority country. They're not the only one, but they're the only very large one. There are over 90 million Iranians, and a good 85% are Shiite. And the Shiites within the overall Muslim world have seen themselves as being oppressed in the Muslim world. And I'm doing an enormous generalization that I don't like doing, but it's part of that aspect, is that Bashar al-Assad comes from a Shiite. It's a shoot off, but it's a Shiite group. Certainly his father would have said that they are Shiites. And Hassan Nasrallah, of course, is the head of Hezbollah. All of the Hezbollahs, because there's Hezbollah, that was the first one, was in Lebanon. There's one that's in Iraq. There are Hezbollahs in Indonesia and Pakistan. They're all over the place. And they represent Shiites. When you hear the word of Hezbollah, it's going to be an organization that's Shiite and Islamist, as opposed to the Sunni extreme Islamist groups. And this is not at all about Muslims. This is about the ones that look at things through this, both the use of terrorism, but about the revolution. So what is Iran doing right now? Iran wants to export the revolution. Iran just had, Adam, a great year. Israel is under attack. The world did not go against Iran. The world attacked Israel. Israel's the one being put on trial. What could be better for Iran? Iran supplies the Houthis in Yemen, closing a main shipping route for the world that goes from Asia, mainly to the Mediterranean Sea, impacting Egypt and the Suez Canal. Iran's having a great day. I don't know how much you're aware, but Iran's foreign minister met, Iran's president, the one that died, not the new one, came to visit Egypt. Why is Egypt hosting Iran? Because Egypt is very heavily hurt by that shipping route. And so they need to talk to the Iranians, because only the Iranians can impact the Houthis. So when you say, so why did they attack now? This means a few things. A, they're not feeling as strong as they were before. They need to show their own strength. They can use the proxies up to a point, but at some point along the way, the proxies are like, hello, Mr. Teacher, you have to show your impact. And we call it the axes of evil. I don't like all of the different terms. I will call it the axes of the Shiites. And it's not all of the Shiites. And again, we're making these enormous generalizations, but at the end, it's within that community, because the Islamic regime of Iran establishes through the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, I call it the Foreign Legion, but it's like the alternative Foreign Legion. I'm sorry, I have a very nasty sense of humor, because I try to explain to people what that means. They're all over the world. So I don't know, you're JCRC, Washington, D.C., and you go, yeah, problems in the Middle East. Iran, through the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and that's going to be the second aspect of what they specifically were attacking about right now. They have foots throughout Central and South America. That's closer to you than you think. Now, that's the Shiite. And I always look, I'm like, it's not fair. We don't want to profile. We don't want to look at communities in that way, but it's very scary if you don't look at it, because you suddenly get things that you don't expect. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard were very close cahoots with Hezbollah. Okay? Qasem Soleimani, that the United States eliminated in January of 2020, 4.5 years ago, He and Hassan Nasrallah were the two charismatic figures who were bringing forth and showing, look, when you join the resistance, when you're with us, you win. You do things. Go and show your, and it's all about showing your Islam. It's not about showing that a terrorist never calls themselves a terrorist in any case. Qasem Soleimani disappeared. I did not sit Shiva Tov. That's a very Jewish way to put it in that sense. Qasem Soleimani they were in cahoots, okay? And Hassan Nasrallah he had been before also, that main figure because he's an orator. Qasem Soleimani was not an orator. He was very charismatic to the people around him. Hassan Nasrallah gave a weekly sermon from 2006. From 1992, he was the Secretary General of Hezbollah. From 2006 and the Second Lebanon War, he was not outside once. He never gave an outside stadium. He never gave a speech outside. His speeches were weekly speeches, sometimes twice a week, all of them filmed. Hezbollah has a really strong video clip YouTube channel. They don't have a YouTube channel, but they have their own. They're very strong in the whole aspect of what they do. And when we killed, and we said it very openly, when we killed Hassan Nasrallah, we killed with him the guy who replaced the guy that we killed in April. So I'll give you 3 reasons that Iran attacked. It isn't about today, but that they needed to attack. They still haven't done anything about Ismail Haniyeh. They needed to do something for Hassan Nasrallah. And we took out a top Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and in response to that guy, in April, they did something similar. This attack was different from April, because that time they sent an enormous amount of what I call UAVs that take a long time to go. So we had these 8 hours. It was a very odd night. And then at the time, at a certain stage along the way, they sent singular numbers, not a lot, of what we call ballistic missiles. This time they fired ballistic missiles that take between 8 to 12 minutes to arrive from Iran to Israel. And I sat in my home, and we were all told, I think, what would probably have been, at the 12 minutes, go downstairs, get into a safe place. They sent hundreds of those type. I think that the number right now that they're saying is 191, whatever, 190, which may be the amount of launchers that they had for that type of missile. And I want to knock on wood, and I want to say to myself that the fact that Israel has invested over the last 2 decades, not just because of Hezbollah, but also because of Hamas and Hezbollah and Hamas, and because we were looking at Iran, it's only because of our active air defense and our passive air defense. It's only because of that I'm sitting here right now, and that Israel isn't full right now. Do you realize that they sent in 190 ballistic missiles to every place inside Israel? We had sirens everywhere. And I was going, nothing happened. I'm like, you realize that nothing happened because Israel took, instead of investing in education or building more, schools or building parks, we built this air defense system. And I'd say that in April and today and throughout this war for the last 11 and a half months, the Hamas rockets also were mainly intercepted by Iron Dome. And I get that in the background so Iran did it because they have to show that they're doing something, that it isn't just the proxies, because they have to show that they are responding to these deaths. But for me, it's showing their growing weakness. And that makes me happy. Strong Iran really frightens me. And Adam, I'm going to add one more thing, even though I keep talking too much.
No.
I want to do a thinking thing for us right now. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't know how much this will bother any of you there, okay? Can you imagine what the last night, what tonight would have looked like if Iran was nuclear? Can you imagine what the last 2 weeks, imagine Israel would not have been able to address this threat, not just of Iran, of Hezbollah, of the Houthis, of all of these different proxies around, if Iran is nuclear. Nobody is willing to if they rattle their horn. Look at what Russia does with Ukraine. They're nuclear. Look at what North Korea does. They're nuclear. And I say that right now because right now, that's part of why Iran is so disturbed, is because they're under sanctions. It's not that there are no sanctions, but they invest their capabilities in the proxies, in the weapons, and they're investing their capabilities in achieving nuclear power. And when you have nuclear power, that's a completely different game. It is not about the type of deterrence, because all we're trying to do right now is rebuild the deterrence that we didn't have. Because if we had had deterrence, October 7th wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, thank you, Miri. I want to give you also a break to kind of catch your breath. So yeah, I'm going to try to bring a few questions together here, and following you describing kind of why Iran has attacked, um, bring some questions together here. So talking about what would be an appropriate response. So what can we expect? We had a question talking about what would be also a feasible strategic goal for the Israeli government, for the military at this moment, beyond the tactical circumstances. And I just saw a report as well. I think there was a question about it as well, talking about IDF coming out saying that they will attack different targets around the Middle East tonight. So perhaps you can share a little bit about that, what the strategic goals might be, what can we expect perhaps, over the next 12 hours over the coming night.
I don't know. And I'm saying that freely with everybody here. This isn't Miri. The IDF knows what's going on. It's in what we call the scenarios, meaning as soon as we upped up the game against Hezbollah, and what we're trying to do is to change the equation of Hezbollah and Iran and the proxies being the ones who have the initiative, because they should be on the defense. They should not feel safe. They should not be allowed to be safe. And I would say that that's going to be the mindset of Israel now. We defended ourselves. I am sure that we did so with our allies. I don't think that this was just Israel in that sense. I think that both the United States and CENTCOM and the way that that comes in, and it's against Iran. And now the question that everybody's saying is, okay, so response, revenge. So after Iran attacked in April, according to international sources, because Israel did not claim that as an attack, Israel retaliated, not officially, as I said, Israel did not claim it, by attacking a air defense system and destroying it at the site where there is a nuclear site in one of the sites that we call nuclear sites in Iran. And I go, okay, so what does that mean? Are we now going to attack the different things? And that's a different dilemma that I've spoken about extensively in the last 2 decades. I've been dealing with this challenge of Iran going nuclear from the early 1990s in my military career. People go, really, 30 years? And now and I go, but look, we pushed it away. In the 1990s, we were worried that it was going to happen in the 1990s. And in the okay, it's like you push it away, you don't want to get there. They keep getting closer and closer, but you don't want to get there. So I do think that the Israeli response, that there will be something, I think that there will be something physical. I don't think that Israel will allow Iran to directly attack us without doing something. But here's the question of what you do, and that connects also to the general aspect. We don't want war. It doesn't help to have all-out war to anybody. War is bad, period. And Iran is not going to disappear. This isn't about us erasing Iran. This is about deterrence and about the actions that they're taking, both with their proxies and themselves. So I say it in those terms because you want to do something that they understand. Do you want to do something so that they don't lose face? Because if they lose face, they may start an all-out open war. And again, we were in a similar situation in April, slightly less tense, I have to tell you. Today was not like April. April, I literally went to sleep, woke up, and then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, done. And it was scary, but not like now. Because anyway, it was scary, if I want to be clear, and I'm Israeli in here. But I think that the most important part, and that connects to the 40,000 feet, but not at all, high world, not just the United States, high world, let's get our act together. And that doesn't mean now that let's pressure Israel to do something. I'm all for pressuring us on all sorts of things. I don't support so many of this Israeli government policies, but we're talking about something this is beyond it. Right now, Iran should feel the wrath of the world, not of Israel. This should not be presented or understood as being, oh yeah, it's Iran that's retaliating for what Israel does, because that immediately turns us into the aggressor. Iran attacked Israel. And I'm going to say something else. Let's say we killed Ismail Haniyeh. Good for us. Excuse me. I'm allowed to say that as an Israeli. Did it at the heart of Tehran and didn't kill anybody else except for the bad guy. We killed Hassan Nasrallah. Oh my God. Okay, that's a heavy duty kind of thing. I mean, at the heart of Beirut, and that's not an easy decision to make. From my point of view, you can't attack Hezbollah without attacking Hassan Nasrallah. He was such an orator. It's not about the decision making. It's about the order. He's such a symbol. Had to get him out. Nobody can replace that in him. And so right now, I think that Israel will do something. I don't know if it will be big and in fanfare. I don't think so. Israel does not want that kind of war. I do think it will be something that we'll all understand, but that can save face. And by the way, we don't have to respond. What we need is for the world to stand up and talk with us. I, for the last 2 weeks, have done endless media about Hezbollah and Lebanon. And I want to share with you that for me, I mean, I could share afterwards. I've shared some of the clips just because that for me, if I am talking on BBC and I am under attack from an anchor on BBC, I'm very good at what I do and I don't get angry. But I'm under attack from a Western media outlet, not for killing Hassan Nasrallah. He was an orator and they're describing him to me, but I'm under attack because Israel is the aggressor against Hezbollah. And I'm like, where were you for the last 11 and a half months? And do you support the idea that a terrorist organization should have a safe haven inside a country? And that's where I want Israel to try to use where we are right now, both when it comes to Hezbollah and Lebanon, certainly when it comes to Iran, and sadly also at the end, a weaker Iran and a weaker Hezbollah automatically means a weaker Hamas, and a weaker Hamas, I don't know, can I hope? Because I'm the one who's very harsh about this, may let some kind of agreement. It's never going to be nice. It's never going to be easy. They took the hostages as literally as bargaining chips. But perhaps it will enable us to be able to get there, to enable this government of Israel, that again, I'm very critical of in different ways, to bring back home some of those hostages alive.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Miri. You kind of led us there into Gaza a little bit and kind of shift a little bit really into Lebanon and Gaza. So where do you see really, we have Iran in the background, and where do you see the war continuing against Hamas in Gaza and against Lebanon, against Hezbollah in Lebanon as well? Yeah, I don't think we expect the IDF going full scale into Lebanon. They will, the southern part of Lebanon is definitely a top priority. But there's a top priority in the south as well, still, with the hostages being there. There's still, Hamas operatives, Hamas infrastructure. Can you share a little bit, perhaps
So,
maybe what is
yeah.
happening maybe in Gaza right now at all? And
First of all, there are
yeah,
lots of forces still active in the Gaza Strip. Israel did not, I mean, it's not about terminology. I don't want to play around with games with words. But what Israel has tried to do is to go after the Hamas military terror capabilities. That means finding weapons, but overwhelmingly severing, and I'm using scissors here, severing that underground subterranean arena, which gives Hamas and Hezbollah, by the way, Hezbollah also has tunnels, subterranean. That's part of what was exposed today up north. That Hamas built that subterranean arena. It gives them mobility. They can move all around the Gaza Strip, and it's very difficult to do anything, and they come up and do so. And in addition, it gives them protection. And I say sadly that in 2023, and we're already in October, oh my God, in October 2024, and I've said for the last year that the war against the Hamas and the Gaza Strip is something that you do slowly, systematically, and it's going to take a year or two. I know this audience does not want Miri to be saying that. I am a progressive liberal woman in Israel. As a security person, the only way you can address a terror army without killing the 2.2 million civilians in the Gaza Strip, and we've already killed an enormous amount, and I'm aware of that. But we've done so where we've been probably killed 15,000 Hamas operatives. They never talk about those. And that doesn't make it any better for the numbers that are out there of 40,000 people that have been killed there. And I'm going to say 40,000 minus 15,000. I don't like those numbers. It hurts me. And there is no other way that I know of. So you tell me stop. And I say the hostages are there. Hamas is there. The capabilities are there. What I need to be sure is that they not only cannot do on October 7th, but that military terror capability that they exhibited, it was all sorts. They had entire facilities where they manufactured weapons, not just receiving that from smuggling. And yes, I know the ideology is going to stay. Can I say that I'm sad about that? Everybody keeps giving that to me as, but you're not going to change the ideology. And I'm like, does that make you happy? Wouldn't you like to change the ideology? Do you like an ideology that writes in its charter that I, Miri, as a Jew, am a cockroach and a pig, and that Israel, the Zionist entity, needs to be annihilated? Which is, by the way, what Iran said yesterday, what Hezbollah says every day. I'm not for that ideology, but I'm putting the ideology aside, even though I don't want to. At least I can take those military terror capabilities and systematically, heavily degrade them. I can never completely destroy them. But what we've done is we've made the capability to do on October 7th not possible, but we're not done yet. And the reason we're not done yet is mainly because of the subterranean arena, which Hezbollah built 20 years. Sorry, I said Hezbollah, which Hamas built 20 years. Hezbollah, by the way, built something very similar. And that's what the IDF exposed just today. Dozens of attack tunnels towards Israel, where the weapons, the motorcycles, the capabilities were there so that they'd be able to come in and infiltrate on the Israeli side, together with paragliders and above ground, etc. Yay, I live in a wonderful arena. So what do I expect? We'll arrive at some kind of resolution because we need our hostages. But I'm the one who's going to say it isn't that it's tomorrow morning. And my heart breaks when I say that. Because Hamas, and the leadership of Hamas, I'm not talking about the Palestinian people. Hamas and the leadership of Hamas, and I say this very sadly, okay, have been very empowered by the reaction of the world to the war of Israel against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. It empowered them. It said to them that all of the defenses that Hamas built to protect Hamas, not the people of the Gaza Strip, work. That the subterranean arena gave them protection. That putting all of their positions inside schools and mosques and hospitals and underneath children's and in different places, so that when you want to attack them, you have to make a choice. And we never attacked them before October 7th. But after October 7th, we're attacking them. And that it works better for them than for us, because we're systematically slowly destroying, but that doesn't stop the killing of civilians. You give early warning. You tell them to leave. You tell them to move. People feel safer in their homes. They took the hostages. That's an enormous, it's not, like that's strategic collateral for them. They view the hostages as bargaining chips. They don't see them as human beings. They executed those 6 in cold blood in a horrific way after they'd already been in captivity. 300 and, God, I've lost my sense of time, 330 days, whatever that was. And they'll do it again. The hostages for them are a bargaining chip, both alive and dead. Look at what that day did to Israel. We were basically in depression. It was the worst day since October 7th when those 6 were executed and found that way. And then they put out afterwards the video clips that they had taken just the days before to show us, yeah, they were alive. You could have gotten them. Do you realize the cruelty of what's going on here? So I don't have anything good to say about it. And I don't think it's going to be over soon. And I want Hamas weaker and Hezbollah being weaker and Iran being weaker and everybody being weaker definitely makes that better as far as I'm concerned. And you're all looking for the resolution. You all want the end of the war. I want the end of the war. All of us want the end of the war. And I want to live here and not have Hamas in a week or 2 or a year have those kind of capabilities. I want to allow my family, and I say that my friends, they always listen to me because I always talk about the Northerners, because both up north and down south, sadly, they were massacred, a lot of my friends, but up north, that They haven't been in their houses for 11 and a half months. And everybody goes, yeah. I go, you do realize, okay, that's their livelihood. It's where they live. They're inside Israel. They live in a community. And you kind of go, yeah. All of those houses have been systematically targeted by ATGMs, by anti-tank guided missiles, and destroyed. Hezbollah puts out pictures. Yay, we've destroyed 70 houses in Manara and 85 in Margaliot and 150 in Metula. They're very proud of what they've done. So when I look at that day after, I see there will be a ceasefire. Every war ends with a ceasefire. There will be diplomacy. And what I really hope, and here I'm much more critical of my own government, is that I hope that we will understand where that tipping point is. I know that for you, we've already gotten past that tipping point, but that's not how we feel here. The last 2 weeks, we needed the initiative against Hezbollah to be able to bring Israelis back into the 70,000 back into their homes, and for all of us to feel more secure, because those infiltrators that could come directly into the border could come all the way to my house. So that sense of what that is something that needed to be done. Now we're at that place where I'm going, okay, happily diplomacy. Let's not have that all-out war, but let's be clear. This stage right now, up north in Hezbollah, is not yet over, because we need to be able to see that they don't have those capabilities, because nobody else is going to confront Hezbollah and disarm them.
Thank you, Miri, so much. We are reaching the
Me and
top.
my monologues.
No, it's amazing, and the overview and really going into the detail. It's really been hearing you talk about it so clearly. It's really been, I think, one eye-opening for those who may not be aware of all of it, and for those of us who are, on a daily basis keeping being updated. It's still hearing it so clearly, I think, gives us another reason, for us to continue doing what we are doing, providing the information, advocating and doing what we can to support Israel. So I want to offer you the opportunity to say any last thoughts.
So I'd love to share, because it's JCRC, and I have enormous respect for what JCRCs do and the fact that it's reaching out to all sorts of people. And I don't know who's on the line right now.
I
Remember,
can say we have I can say we have many people on, on this webinar who are Jewish, non-Jewish, professors. We have plenty, a wide
so
variety.
first of all, I mean, really, I want to say in that sense, thank you. But I want to end perhaps with one aspect that for me is crucial. Iran just attacked Israel. Hezbollah's been attacking Israel for years, by the way, but so openly from October 8th, and you all know what happened October 7th and in the aftermath. But what happened on October 7th, for me, I was appalled by October 7th. I was devastated, but I was surprised by what happened in North America. And I say that because, to me, one of the challenges of what's happened in this year, including in these days, is that the framing of what's going on pretty much from October, maybe not on October 7th, but from the stage where Israel is going on this offensive, is that Israel is the aggressor, that we're using too much force, that we need to hold back, that what we're doing is indiscriminate, and can give you all the terms, you all know them. And I want to say, as somebody who is a colonel and served in the IDF, that all three of my children are serving, and my husband has been in reserve duty for the 361 days, that everybody I know is serving. It's us. I need us to be able to look in the mirror afterwards. I will never target a civilian. If I know that there are civilians, I'll abort. If I can, and I do, and certainly did this in the Gaza Strip, I'll tell people to move. And my heart can go out when 85%, it's always statistics, 85% of the people leave. That means that 15% stayed. That's a lot of people. So you go in and you announce and you tell, and right now I'm just seeing the exact same thing happening in Lebanon. We're giving early warning. I was literally attacked on BBC. You're not giving enough early warning. I'm like, what military in the world gives any early warning? People are sleeping on the streets. I'm like, we told them to leave. We're saving their lives. They live next to cache of weapons. They live in this country, this. And I say it because right now I'm really worried as a Jew, as an Israeli, on not the delegitimizing that you mentioned, but on the dehumanizing of the Israeli and the Jew. And to me, that's where I'm trying to put my future um, aspect. I had been directing an Institute for Counterterrorism. I left. I'm much more focused right now because I really do feel that it's not rhetoric, that what we are living in right now is, for me, the most appalling time ever. I never thought I would live in this, that my children would live in this, the most overt, horrific anti-Semitism I've ever seen. And I want to hope that we can change together.
Thank you, Miri. And I couldn't say it any better than you. And really, with the support for Israel and, the anti-Semitism we are experiencing here, we do as an organization do whatever we can to support the Jewish community and Israel during this entire difficult year, really, and especially now approaching the 1 year mark of October 7th as well. Um, Mire, I want to thank you so much, really, for being here. I know it has not been a
I'm honored. I'm happy. I need to go do Sky News. I adore
yes.
you all. Off to the media.
Thank you so much. I mean, you can leave at any moment. I just thank you again. I want to thank everyone who joined us today. I want to call on everyone who is here
I'm
and
leaving. Thanks.
watches. That's fine. I here and is watching this to join us on October 7th in DC at the Anthem in DC for a commemoration of the 1 year mark since October 7th. Please join us to support Israel and to come together as a Jewish community. I think it's really important during these days. Um, Thank you all for being here today. I wish everyone a happy holiday as much as we can. Our thoughts and prayers are with Israel during these days. Happy Jewish New Year. Be well, stay safe. Shana Tova.